We just ended a section in which we understood the cellular reproduction and how genes were transferred from parents to offsprings. In this section, you will now closely understand the laws which govern these inheritance, and these are also called as the laws of inheritance. The laws of inheritance were first postulated by the Austrian monk Gregor Mendel. From many crossbreeding experiments that Mendel carried with his famous garden pea plants, he was able to trace the transmission of traits such as flower color. Mendel took some detailed notes regarding the results of thousands of generations of crossbreeding pea plants, and he was able to mathematically understand the traits that are showing up in the successive generation. What Mendel used was mainly statistics, because he was very successful since he chose his pea plant had a very large number of offsprings, and Mendel grew up in Austria, where it's really a very long spring as compared to other areas, and he was also working in a monk, so he had also a lot of time or a lot of spare time in which he would grow these pea plants, and he would actually sit down and count the size of the pea pods. He would count the shapes of the leaves, he would count the flowers on the pods, and so forth. And he is known as the father of genetics, and we are right now understanding the Mendelian genetics and how does it apply to the cellular reproduction of the kind that we just learned in the previous section. We would like to get into a few concepts and terms, just like we have been doing in the past. Now, the term hybrid pretty much means that it's going to have two different kinds of traits. Hybrids are always produced after a cross is made between two individuals, and these individuals are true breeding, which means that if you have a pure breed and you cross it with another pure breed, the offspring that results will have some properties of one parent and some of the other. The reason this happens is because during inheritance, an allele is a characteristic that is holding a trait, and that allele has passed on from the parental generation to the offspring generation. Now, here is a comparison of the crosses that were done by Mendel later on. Excuse me. We will look at the cross with respect to meiosis. Now, remember, in meiosis, it was important that the homologous chromosomes would pair up. So if the homologous chromosomes that belong to a dominant parent would pair up, then you would have identical paired chromosome. However, if you get it from a hybrid, you notice that it's got one dark line and one light blue line. Where did the light blue line came from? The light blue line was indicating that these are coming from one other recessive parent. So notice meiosis was not actually understood by Mendel at that time, and meiosis and mitosis were later on discovered. But Mendel had already postulated that during cell division, somehow the gametes that were formed had the trait that was being carried on to the next generation. Some more terms. The word gene is a unit. Gene are regions of on the chromosome where the information about coding a particular sequence is present, and this particular coding will represent or will express in a unique characteristic or a trait. And each gene has its own locus, which is the location of the gene. So, for example, if you have a pair of homologous chromosome, a gene locus, as it's called in plural, will be certain areas that are corresponding to a certain trait. Allele is a term in which different molecular forms of the same gene, which means that a pair of alleles may be identical, for example, because you can see over here, that is the corresponding region in both of the chromosomes, and those are called as allele. The term mutation represents the change in those locuses. So if there's a change in the genes, then those will be mutations, and sometimes mutations can be permanent change in the genetic pool of an organism. Okay. Now, in modern genetic terms, we have some more vocabulary words, and one of the most important that we will hear a lot is the term dominant. A dominant allele indicates that this is a characteristic that is present in as a physical appearance, or its characteristic that is shown. For example, if we say that the dominant allele are brown eyes, then both the alleles or both the chromosomes that have them will have it represented as an uppercase, for example BB, or as shown over here, that is double A or AA. So for example, if the color that is indicated over here is purple, then a dominant allele of purple would be represented as capital P, capital P. However, its counterpart, which is the recessive allele, so for example, if we go back on the same I show you the recessive allele, which is the white flower, and if it's the recessive allele and purple is, let's call this is the purple allele, and if it's the white allele is now going to represent by lowercase pp, which will indicate that these are white flowers. So a recessive allele is going to use two lower cases. A dominant allele can hold either two upper cases, or in the case of a heterozygous, one upper, one smaller. So a heterozygous means that it has allele from both sides, but the one that is expressed is the dominant allele, which is the uppercase letter. So example, if we take the purple and the white flower, and we have a heterozygous combination, which the alleles will be represented by capital P, small p. But here purple is represented by capital P and small p is recessive. So the appearance of this heterozygous would be that it would be a purple flower. Now this purple flower that is here, which is the heterozygous, is different than the homozygous purple, which you can see they're both uppercase. Many times dominant allele usually masks the effect of the recessive allele. So a recessive allele over here is just a carrier, but it is not being expressed as an expression of the gene. In individuals, alleles are called as the genotype, which is the combination of these alleles that I just showed you, but the appearance or the physical appearance is called as the phenotype. So in the same example, the phenotype of a heterozygous that is shown over here is purple, and it's also purple on this part. So the appearance are both purple, but the genotype, which is the exact combination of the genes, are different. So many times phenotypic appearances may be the same, but the genotypic locuses may be different.